Annyeong! Welcome to Delightful! This is episode 2 of the Sketch With Me series. I hope I can do more of these. They're really chill and fun videos to make. And of course, I hope it's fun to watch. These are off script. I usually write scripts for my videos, so you'll get to hear my more natural manner of speaking, which is undoubtedly a little bit more awkward. I do love having the power to edit myself. So for my first sketch, I was just warming up and I was thinking, oh, what do I want to draw? I wore a really cute outfit today, so I'm just gonna draw myself in this outfit. I know, not very creative, but like I said, these are more to unwind. It wasn't a really creative exercise kind of drawing. It's gotten really chilly around here lately. For those who don't know, I live in South Korea, and I'm originally from Texas. So it gets cold, it gets pretty cold in the winter, but not as cold as it does here. So I'm not used to wearing so many puffy jackets and coats, even though I love that kind of fashion, so I've really been enjoying the winter weather so far, and that probably sounds strange to people who live up north their whole lives and are thinking, I'm so tired of winter weather. But I'm having a blast. This time I started off with a pencil sketch underneath and came back on top with a really fine line ballpoint pen, I guess it is. I wish I could tell you exactly what kind of pen it was, but it was just this random, princess-themed pen I got in a kawaii box ages ago. The pen I'm using right now to fill in my leggings, though, that's called a brush pen. And if you haven't played around with one yet, I would suggest getting one if you're an artist. You can get some really cool effects with a brush pen. So here I am in my wintry clothes. Yay! Turning the page for our next sketch here. I felt like doing something completely different, and I do try to keep up my skills, and one of the things I'm not great at is landscapes and watercolors, so I thought, hey, I'll do a landscape in watercolor and just see how that goes. So I'm actually sketching what's directly in front of me. I'm looking out my window, and this is the view out of our new apartment's window, so you'll get to see what that looks like. I just talked about it, but it is autumn here, and it's so beautiful. Like growing up in Texas again, the leaf-changing colors were mostly just brown, but here they're yellows and reds and fading to green, and of course brown too, but it's so pretty. I really enjoy going outside and looking at all the trees. I know, I'm such a tree hugger. I know it. If you haven't noticed by now, clearly this paper is not meant for watercolor. It's just computer paper. That's not meant to handle this kind of moisture. And it's my fault, really, because I like to bookbind, too, so I bound this sketchbook. I try to bind all my sketchbooks just to make them more unique, And I was out of cardstock. I wanted to put cardstock in this sketchbook, but I was out, and I'm a thrifty kind of gal, so I just used what I had on hand. So this sketchbook is a little flimsy, to say the least, but we're gonna try to make it work, and I have a tiny hairdryer here, which I mostly use for my dolls. I'm gonna try to dry the water faster, and hopefully it'll stay flatter. And actually, after I finished this sketch, I ironed it too, so all things considered, the computer paper handled it pretty well. Started off with a broad wash of color in the background, and now I'm picking out more and more details. I kind of started in the middle ground with the trees and the darkest parts, and I don't think that's how you're supposed to do watercolor. I'm pretty sure dark parts come last, but what do I know? And so I kept going and suggested some cars and more foreground elements as I went on. And eventually I finished up the buildings. And in the end, it still didn't feel sharp or dark enough, which is how I usually feel about watercolors, so I came back in with a graphite pencil to kind of beef up the values and sharpen some of the foreground elements. And there we go. That's a pretty cute study, I'd say. To be honest, I can't believe the computer paper stayed together. Alright, on to our last sketch. Setting the sketchbook aside for a little bit, I'm going to be using this recycled brown paper that I think was a grocery bag at one point. And I started doing a sketch and gave up on it, flipped it over. You know what happens sometimes. And I decided I would draw my brother-in-law. You may recognize him, actually. I made a doll of him last Christmas, I think. He's the bearded Alistair Wonderland custom doll, if you're interested. There are so many comments on that video that are like, oh my gosh, she made PewDiePie! And I'm like, no, it's my brother-in-law. Like, to be fair, they're both Northern European descent and have great beards, so, you know, I can see where the confusion happened. Anyway, getting back on track, he's also a toy lover and an artist and an animal lover, nature kind of guy, so I get along really well with him. In fact, my sister and her husband and my husband, the four of us get along really well, which I'm very thankful for, and hopefully we can live closer in the future. I also like to draw my husband, of course, and my friends, and sketching from life is always fun. I also like to draw my sister, but it never looks like her. Like, there's this joke in my family that I'm pretty good at portraiture and can draw almost anyone, but for some reason I can never get my sister's likeness. And I don't know why, because I think I know her the best out of like anyone on the planet. It's a curse. Working on toned paper is always really fun because you're starting off with a midground, which means you can sketch on something in a darker pencil, but you can also add lighter colors too. So if you ever want to make a quick sketch but turn it into something that looks pretty professional, like I would suggest using toned paper, coming in with some pen, and then back on top with white acrylic. It always looks really nice in my opinion. Here's a tip for my fellow artists. I'm sure some of you already do this. If you do a sketch on a separate piece of paper, then you can just come back to your sketchbook, find a page that's got like a really bad drawing on it. You don't want anyone seeing that, right? So you just glue right on top of it, and voila! As far as they know, every page was always a masterpiece. Okay guys, thank you so much for joining me. This was really fun. I hope you had a fun time watching me sketch. Maybe you sketched a little bit too. Let me know down in the comments what's your favorite thing to draw and in what medium. And I'll catch you guys next time. Stay artsy! Annyeong!